Welcome, everyone. Sat Shree.
Namaste. Thank you for joining us for this panel.
No, it's a satsang. It's a global youth satsang.
Yeah.
This is our first one. So we welcome all of you and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Satchamai. I think I know just about everybody who's online right now. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how today is going. And we're just going to start off and then we'll see really how it does unfold. So we have that kind of flexibility. So first of all, Sat Shree and I will, mostly Sat Shree, as you all know, will speak for about 15 or 20 minutes and just kind of share his, kind of open up the conversation. And then we're going to bring in our 4 co-hosts. So we're going to introduce them right now. We're going to start with Satya. So you're going to get highlighted. She's waving. There we go. This is Satya. She's from Sweden. Our second co-host is Amit, who is coming to us from Canada. So we're waiting. There's Amit. Hey, Amit, your hair is growing out. Then we have Tonya. Is Tonya on? Good. Tonya's coming out to us from Oregon. Hey, Tonya, where's your little resource?
He is contained.
Oh, he's contained. Okay. That's her puppy, Mr. Chips, unless the name has changed.
No.
And then from Sweden also is Adi Deva. So let's welcome Adi Deva. Hey, good morning or good evening for you. So once Sat Shree and I complete our speaking, which is 15 to 20 minutes, then we're going to let the co-hosts come forward and they can talk among them. They'll introduce themselves, give you, their dialogue on our topic today. And then and from then on, you guys are running the show. So, Sat Shree and I are here if a question is directed at us, or you direct to the co-hosts, or whatever else shows up. So we're really looking forward to this. The idea is that we are going to be doing this monthly. And we'll look for topics from the audience. So what is that you guys would like us to bring forward? I also want you to know this is a public satsang. It is also streaming live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. It is on Crowdcast as a public broadcast. You will also have access to the replay afterwards. All of this is free. All right, thank you. And Sat Shree.
Okay.
The last thing is, not everyone on here is young, but we're young in heart. Okay.
Okay, so we have a juicy topic today. Sex and relationship in the spiritual path. You talk about mixing a pile together around this topic. We just got this about as messy and as mixed up and as karmic as you possibly could have a discussion about. So it's a rich, vast arena because it has a lot to do with how we organize as individuals in life. Our sexuality, our sense of identity, who we are, and then our relationship with others to either confirm or invalidate that identity that you create. And it's this play between the principles of male and female, masculine and feminine that we all carry. But of course, if you have a female body, it's going to be more to the feminine principle. And if it's a male body, more to the masculine principle. We all have both, be clear. But the real question I have for all of you to bring to this is, how does this align with your purpose? The reason you're alive, to whatever extent it's become available to you. What lifts you? What inspires you? What is the higher in your priorities in terms of relevance on the unfolding of yourself as an individual coming into relationship with your eternal nature, with a nature that doesn't die, a quality of yourself that goes beyond this life, this body, this personality that you've taken on. So I'd like to hold that as an overall context for this inquiry, because it's likely to diverge in so many different ways otherwise. Because the fundamental principle is, how can we take these two very tangled patterns of a human design and align them with our spiritual purpose? And that's the question for you. That's where to look. Where is sex for me in my relationship with my relationship with God and truth? My relationship with coming into life as in greater reality than I've been able to before. How is it that these factors, sex and relationship, support or diminish my ability to come to the central part of myself that is seeking, that is striving to come into alignment with a greater possibility for yourself, or to be of service in the world in some way? Now, even your Dharma can be a bypass for the real lessons of your life. And this is what I see with young people, is that you are, at the most part, much more open and receptive to the collective consciousness, its anguish, and the spiritual force that's been entering into the world since the 60s and has now created quite a momentum that it's awakening people all over the world, and they have no context for it. Those who are still linked into a religion, they use the religion for the context, but religion has lost its authority in most of the Western countries, and therefore it's no longer sufficient to support the capacity in us to see and experience truth. As and among you, even more so, since it's my recognition that the younger bodies are more able to receive and hold spirit than older bodies like mine.
Or mine.
Or such am I, although she's young for me too, still,
Not that young.
Yeah. But this whole issue of coming into the right relationship between spirit and matter, between the natural aspiration of our awakened self and the developmental stage of our live life, the developmental stages of our live life that still are occurring. Organizing yourself as a woman in the world or as a man in the world, and how you are in relationship, how you are in work, how your capacity for independence, the structures that keep you frightened in shame or diminishment, and the structures that help empower your sense of self and your capacity in existence, they're mingled in your systems as if one seems to be the solution for the other, but they're not unless they're together. That spirit can be a bypass from your own developmental process coming into life as an individual, or life could become the bypass, bypassing the spiritual process that's going on and not being able to align with it so that it can fulfill its purpose in you. Now, I know when the real awakening happened for me when I was 50, I had gone through all the developmental stages that many of you have yet to go through. There is that stage as we come out of our childhood and we start socializing as a sexual being, interacting with human beings, with all that biochemistry, all those hormones at work, and then need to be seen and need for approval and seeking out to confirm yourself in your relationship with others, either with your peers of the same sex or with the opposite sex. So there's this whole quagmire formation that goes through our developmental stages until we become young adults. And then we have our education, we have work or family becoming the priorities and the organizing principles of our life. And the stages we go through where we come out of the idea of what something is and meet the reality of what something is. When we come out of school and meet the grounded reality of a world where there's no jobs, or where there are challenges, or where you're not good enough, or where you're actually in a place of very deep uncertainty about how good you can do it in the world. So life itself will teach us the lessons that will prepare us for the spiritual path. But for many of you, the spiritual path is already happening. It's already going on. And so there is these two tendencies that are going to be mingled in and creating a complexity and a confusion as to what is the priority, what is the right thing for me, how do I live, what are the actions, what are the things that I make important, and how need I be in life in a way that I can have a sense of my own progress occurring, a sense that I'm making progress, I'm getting there, I'm getting it in ways I couldn't get it before, in our experience, in our knowing, in our awareness, in our lived capacities as people, individuals, becoming financially independent or becoming dependent on different people in the course of our life for our sense of safety or self-worth or validity. All the dynamics that occur in human relationship between men and women, it is this codependency structure where each is compensating for structures in themselves that they haven't been able to come to resolution with. Patterns of shame in men and patterns of shame in women express themselves differently. Men have it, masculine principle tends to compensate for it, operate on top of it. Women tend to get overtaken by it and stay in a diminished sense of self. So the patterns exist in both of us in different areas of our life. We can be quite masculine as a woman in the work arena, in a profession, in a field of training, but quite feminine and vulnerable in the relational field, or vice versa. So the principle that we're looking for is finding your own rudder, your own authority, the thing in you that can choose, the thing in you that can inquire. And that place is what awakens in you spiritually, but it also develops in you in your material lived life. You as an individual person, a man or a woman, to know what you are, to know yourself as a person. This is what I'm good at. That's what I'm not good at. This is what I can't seem to break out of. This is what I've been able to break out of. That experiential maturity. When you begin to recognize what you're good at, what you're not good at, what it is that works and what doesn't work, what you need to put some restraints in and what you need to break out of the restraints with. But the spiritual path itself is really quite simple. On the spiritual path, you just give yourself over entirely to the call of spirit within you, to the cry of the soul within you. And there are stages in your progress where there'll be times, and it will come and it will go because it's inevitable, where the aspiration and the longing to be connected to that divinity you're discovering or have discovered within yourself becomes the organizing principle the rest of your life. So how do you want to be with that? Even if it means you leave behind the developmental opportunities of relationship and work and your own sexuality in the course of your life. Versus the other, where life seems so important. It seems that becoming materially competent, being able to work out who you are in the world is the most important thing. In my observation, both of these occur at different times in a young person's life, where spirit pulls you strongly and then matter calls you back. And you feel pulled back into the world life of sex, relationship, work, coming to some sense of self, some autonomy as an individual. And then bang, back into spirit again. See, the thing that I have observed, different than the path I traveled, because literally my system and older people have had to struggle to bring spirit forward from a much more embedded pattern on the cells of our body. So the labor of awakening in an older system meant you had to cut out the world. You had to cut out all those other things in order for spirit to find enough of a foothold that you could eventually enter back and meet those parts of your life that were undeveloped. Younger people, this is less an issue, but the danger is that if you follow the call of spirit, your ability to hold it won't expand in the same ratio. Therefore, it will come and go, following the cycle of the planets, of the moon, of the gunas. And therefore, you will lose faith in both yourself as a spiritual seeker and yourself as an individual human being. And then therefore, you're living in this dejection. So it's my perception that dejection is very much part of your generations. Those who are in their 20s and the 30s, even the 40s, that it is like a constant companion. Yes, you come here and there's compensation. Then they find a new relationship or a new activity in the world where you feel useful, and that becomes a compensation for the lack of spirit. But in between, and what's still there, is there's a part of you that know you have not yet come to the fullness of either. And that is truth. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of dejection is the first chapter. Because what it means is yoga. Yoga is actions that are aligned with your purpose. Dejection is an event that aligns us with our purpose. Because all the old structures are no longer valid when we're in the spirit of dejection. Being able to hold that, not get overtaken by that, is a yoga. That means to be informed, to recognize that this struggle is part of life, that there isn't a solution, that your shame is shared by everyone, and everyone is suffering from the same diminishing structures you've made real for yourself. To see that we're all in this together can begin to give you a way of holding your own individual process and not get overtaken by it. So this is, I think, it's what both Sat Shree and I have felt is reason we wanted to empower a youth group. Because together you can form a fellowship of fellow yogic dejection travelers. What? And be able to give a context for the different stages of the process where the shame and diminishment doesn't overtake you so convincingly. Because I assure you, that is the truest lie. The truest lie is that you're not worth it, that you don't deserve to exist, that you're not good enough, or something's wrong with you. That is the fundamental lie of the human ego. That keeps us from knowing the divinity, the reality of our own divinity. So part of this process, when you understand the nature of dejection, you begin to discover that you have a choice. You begin to discover that you can choose the negative, or you can choose the positive. You can choose to come out of the promptings that the dejection brings, or you can choose to step into that which is not yet known, where there's no guarantee, where there is uncertainty. And this can work out in this whole area of relationship and sex, because it is possible to be able to be in a relationship, and including a sexual relationship, where the purpose of each of your lives are aligned, and where these are no longer obstacles to your development in either category, where the other becomes a partner with you in the struggle for you to find the right relationship with yourself. Now, this often happens with spiritual awakening because the psychic opens. And when the psychic opens, we become attuned with someone else whose psychic is open. But it doesn't mean that that's the only criteria for joining with someone, because there will be other karmic, samskaric patterns and structures from our programming that will coat that psychic urge, seeking to fulfill itself from the hope or the expectation of the desire, need of your human personality. So you have to understand both the treachery and the opportunity. And where's the treachery? It's where you lose your discrimination, where you forget who you are, where in a relationship you become dependent or attached, or use that to create a safe zone for yourself that if it wasn't there, you imagine you would fall flat. Rather that you find a partner that is not so much the soulmate, which is what the psychic is always looking for, but the cellmate, the one who can be with you when you're your worst, and the one that you can be within their worst. Because it is in the depths of the structures of the error that we become free and begin to create and bring forward in the world what you need to continue to expand on both paths. As we expand in matter, we strengthen our ability to hold spirit. As we expand in spirit, we expand our matter, our body, to hold spirit. So they're like two tracks on the train of the purpose of your life. They both play a role. But the most important thing is that third thing, your purpose. And how do you know it's your purpose? It'll be the aspiration, it'll be the longing, it'll be the determination that comes over time, the resolve to find what is true, what is lasting, what can stand in its own truth and be fulfilled, needing nothing, not needing to have anything outside of itself to be full and complete within itself. Okay, there you go.
You did
Am I
pretty
on
good.
time?
You have
Yeah.
9 seconds left.
I got all right. So now that's what I invite to be the kind of the looking theme, but I let it to be let the other members of the panel feel to bring forward
I'm
what's
gonna-
over them.
So I just wanted to, again, thank you. And I do give credit to Tonya many times. She's probably heard this enough, but for awakening me to how your process, instead of from, completing matter to spirit, you guys are moving from spirit into matter.
Which
And-
is this way.
Yeah, and we had a conversation with a number of you just a few weeks ago where the thing that came up the most was embodiment and how important and how to make that work, how to be in matter and live your life with what is happening with the energies that are coming through, the awakenings and everything that goes along with that. So I have no words of wisdom other than hang in there. But at this point, I'm going to start and just turn it over to Satchagita and let you go from here. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Satchagita. I think I've met most of you, at least online. And I'll simply share a little bit about my experience. I think all of us speaking will agree on that this is a unique journey for everyone, like that each person will find what's true for them in terms of relationship or not relationship. And also I would say I was 32 when I met Sat Shree and Satchimai. I'm 36 now. And I know many of you are much younger than that. So for you, this would probably be a different path, a different experience. And I had already been through quite a few relationships. I'd been engaged. And during that time, I was also in another community with another teacher where most participants were actually in their 20s and 30s. So these questions would come up all the time. And I think for me, what's changed the most throughout my life is how I relate to relationships. Because, I mean, I always knew to some extent that all of me wouldn't be fulfilled through a relationship, but still I had to try that. Like I had to go into them and try it and be disappointed and I go through breakups and all of that. And eventually when I was around 30, I just got very tired of how I related to it and felt that I needed to just give myself a break from it. And when I met Sat Shree, that just grew stronger. Like I needed to come to a place of more fulfillment within myself before I was ready for another relationship or before I wanted another relationship and if I wanted a relationship. So, and And now I am in a relationship again, but it's coming from a different place of being just more full. What else to say? Yeah, I could also go into sex already, but maybe we should let some other person talk and I can go on, because we haven't really discussed how to do this. So if someone else wants to speak, then I can come back a little later.
I could throw myself in there. All right. So I think the first thing that I would like to relate is just when I listen to you, Sat Shree, I often hear when you mention sex, just like you started this conversation, sex and relationship, it's the problem of it. You know, it feels like that is the entry point when I hear you and you're teaching about it. And that's where I feel that I differ. So for me, I think it's really, I have lived with a separation, or where I create kind of a either or, you know, either God or relationship, or, and even just lately, I had this question come up, but I'm feeling that there's something that's coming to a resolution, that it's not even about choosing one or the other anymore, that this is not the question. And that is such a beautiful thing in itself, to have come to that place in me. So and at the same time, I know for me how important it has been to really come to my own authority, continue to come to my own authority. When I met Sat Shree about 4 years ago, when I embarked on the journey and started meditating 2 hours a day, I knew that I was now becoming responsible for my happiness. And where I would previously, when I was in a relationship at that time, I was kind of relying on her to make me happy. And in a way, that actually in itself disrupted the relationship quite a lot. I could stop there for my first kind of share and see whoever else wants to step in. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can take it over from now. Hi, everyone. My name is Amit. I'm still like, this is an area where I don't have a lot of experience in, but I can certainly share a little bit of what I have experienced within myself over the last years or so. I've seen that unless a person comes to a place of sufficient amount of fulfillment or okayness within themselves, going into a relationship will often become a source of bondage rather than enjoyment. If we are looking to fulfill ourselves through the other person, where we get the sense of being whole when we are with them, then that won't work. Like right now, I'm in a relationship with Satchigita, and I'm seeing that we both have this place where we are fulfilled within ourselves. So when we talk to each other, there's a lot of joy. But at the same time, the fact that we are living on different continents or we are unable to see each other doesn't matter. Like even after hanging up, I still have this place in me which is fulfilled or content. And we both share the same aspiration, we both have the same determination. So there is that common ground around which this relationship is created. And that brings this sense of well-being that everything is done for that. So that is always going on in the background. And the other day we were speaking on FaceTime, and she said that, Amit, we know that we both have this willingness where we will be willing to give this up if it came down to it. And that felt very freeing, that we have that choice if it needed to be. And I feel that if it happens around this context, there is this joy available of being in this relationship because both are in our own authorities. And the other thing that I like so much is that we are both open to listening to each other. Like whenever I'm getting defensive, she'll always say that, Amit, I feel that you're getting defensive. And she'll invite me to look within myself. And I have this openness where it's like, okay, maybe there's something that she is seeing that I'm not seeing, even though at that point of time, it feels like, what is she talking about? And a few times that has happened, and I had no idea of what she was pointing out in me, but I left the door open. And after a few days, I saw that. I saw what she was talking about. And that was a very powerful moment for me to see that how blindsided I can be when it comes to these structures. And since then, whenever I speak with her, there's always this, oh, wow, what will I learn about myself this time when we are talking? And I see the freedom that brings in the human of me. Like when I see these structures, they move, and how much more freer and full and whole I feel after that. So there is always this evolution that we both are going through through this relationship, which is one of the most fulfilling parts for me. And in my short journey around relationships, I've seen that there is a time in the spiritual path where it helps to not go into a relationship so that you can come to this place where there is sufficient amount of authority within yourself. And like the first time when this happened for me was when I went to India. I think it was 2017, and everything in me wanted to be in a relationship. And that time I knew that if I go into a relationship right now, it won't work because I am not in my authority at all. And I had to say no. But did I say no? No, I didn't say no to it because the hormones were just too strong. But looking at hindsight, I see that it was a moment of grace where I did not find a woman that was willing to be with me. Otherwise, it would have been a backslide for me at that moment of time. And the burning that I was going through because I was not finding the girlfriend or the partner I needed was burning out that part of me which desperately wanted to be in a relationship, and because of which we lose our authority. And through the years, that part burnt out sufficiently enough that now when I'm in a relationship, I feel this freedom in myself where I see that I am not dependent on this relationship. So it brings in a lot of joy to be in this place. And I feel that's why there is this enjoyment that I find when I speak to Satyagita. It's because it's being done like subconsciously, it's being done in this context of God and truth. That's how I thought. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tonya. I've been with Sat Shree. I met Sat Shree when I was 23 and was in a relationship and worked through that for many years with Sat Shree and my partner at the time. And now I'm 29. So that's just kind of a context of what the process or the time and space that I have spent with Sat Shree. But I think something that's been really prevalent for me in the conversation around relationship, sexuality, and the spiritual path has to do probably also with early life experiences in a yoga community that I grew up in. Having these strong masculine sort of frameworks and ways of looking at awakening and spirituality. And, you know, if we look at the history of that, women were often excluded from those in the past, and that there's a real elevation of kind of the renunciation path, the you know, the pushing things away, the cave, and a denial of bodily pleasures, of the feminine, of, you know, we're seeing that on a global scale. I feel that happening everywhere, and I know that we all are seeing what's happening, but I think it's very related, because I find that I've also like internalized those perspectives and placed them on myself, where then I will internally come to these places of judgment around sexuality or relationship or children, or you know, I have a similar experience with sometimes feeling that when Sat Shree is talking about those, that it's a problem. And I think that is sort of pervasive in a lot of spiritual conversations. And for me, it's always been about fullness. It's always been about aliveness and embodiment, like Sachimayi mentioned, but of like really entering and meeting all of those places and not denying those places. And I totally agree and understand like the necessity to come to one's authority and all of that, because I don't think it's truly possible to have that relationship of kind of embodying fullness and aliveness if you haven't been able to find that place of choice within yourself or within myself. And I guess for me as a woman, as a young woman on the spiritual path, I've had to really start picking those apart and watching and looking into where I've internalized that shame or that guilt or that thinking that one path is a higher path, and finding the place where I'm recognizing that the path that I'm walking and choosing is my highest path. And that includes sexuality, and that includes relationship, and that includes this like willingness to drop in and explore all of that, because I found that in relationship, sexuality really can bring huge opportunities to dip into a vulnerability, into a space of healing, into, you know, ways to tap into kind of more universal archetypes and experience those through maybe some like more tantric types of experiences, where it has actually helped me to know myself more fully, being able to engage in those ways consciously, and being supported, you know, to always kind of look at things with that critical awareness, and continuing to tune in to the choice that I am making. But I think something that came up for me when I was sort of just thinking about these topics was a conversation that Sat Shree and I had as I was working out relationship things and being a young woman and all of that. And I was going to go away for several years to a different country, and Sat Shree had recommended or suggested that perhaps staying in the relationship was going to be a really good way to protect me from my own youthful, sensual sexuality as I go to Latin American country for a few years. And though like I understand the sentiment of, you know, being able to avoid a certain level of pain and suffering that we go through when we come into contact with parts of ourselves that perhaps are unmet or wild or whatever. But this was a big turning point for me, where I had to decide that actually my own sexuality was not my enemy, and I don't need protection from it. And I actually would like to embrace it and love it and know it fully. And the only way that I'm going to do that is to explore it and to know and understand it. And, you know, it's like Sat Shree opened this conversation talking about kind of how this conversation is treacherous in nature because of the different threads that we're weaving together here in this complex conversation and experience. And so the waters are stormy, but that I'm the only one on this ship. I'm the only one that navigates this. And if I can't handle my own power and sexuality, then I need to figure out how to do that, because I can't look to anyone for protection from myself. Or yeah, so I have just come to a place where I am more and more just peeling away those layers of the guilt or the shame that I've imposed on that, and dipping more fully into this womb of half of the reason we're here. I mean, all of the reason we're here is to experience life in relationship to ourselves. Like this, it's this mirroring, it's this relationship. And so I, have found that the intimacy and sexuality and the exploration that comes from that has really actually been quite revealing, and propelled me further along, and helped me to dip into and meet those like lower chakra spaces, so that those two can become full of the mother force or the creation force, so that there's not a block. So there's not like a stopping to the level of embodiment, so that there is a full space that I've opened up and said yes to within myself. So, yeah.
I'd love to just speak a little bit, continue on what Tonya spoke about. Because for me, like the sexual relationships that I had in my 20s, I was not into like tantra or sacred sexuality or anything. And for me, when Sat Shree started talking about celibacy, I was just relieved, because of the way I had related to my own sexuality, like how I had been like shown that sex is, which wasn't very fulfilling. Like it wasn't hard to give up. And now I'm coming into it from another place where I have just promised my body to listen only to my body, like to only listen to my body, what it wants sexually. And I totally agree with everything Tonya said about sexuality being a huge arena when I come into it from this place. And just the importance in this time to also listen to female bodies when it comes to sex, like what female bodies want, because this arena is so shaped also by male bodies, male orgasm, like what male bodies, pleasure for male bodies. So for me, it's like I'm coming into it from a completely different place and integrating it into my spiritual and human development. Yeah, thank you.
And up for the room.
Are we? So
Can I step in and just I'd love to just add something more to this, and hear Sat Shree just reflect a little bit on our sharings before we go into opening up more to the room. And then I just like to say, when I was sitting for a moment, tuning into what was important for me in this time together tonight, I felt that, and this ties in more directly to the sexual, but also the being in the world, the being in the body, the being in relationship, is enjoyment and sensuous experience. And when I was sitting there, I felt energy coming in and touching all the way down into through all my lower chakras. And it was great. It felt really lovely and pleasurable. And I feel that this is something that I want to affirm in my inner experience, in interaction, and in outer action. And I've been celibate on Sat Shree's encouragement for almost 3 years. I recently stepped out of that, and I know that maybe the time frame of how long I did it wasn't necessary to exactly that time, maybe all that time necessary to come to whatever place of responsibility, ability to hold my desires, and relate differently in relationships that I have found very useful. But I would not be able to feel that connection in myself that I felt today, sitting, feeling that enjoyment and the energy coming in, still being celibate, because that is something that would, in a way, put it back, kind of down below, under something that needs to be covered or held back. And also just adding to what the opportunity of relationship as I see it is that I see so much. I've been really quite dedicated from the start in the 2 longer relationships I've been in previously to learning and really learning how to love. And so I've done quite a bit of couples therapy, different kinds of couples therapy. And I know that there's, and I think Sat Shree and Satyamaya are pointing to that too, that for us in this generation, perhaps this is different. I know that a lot of relationships and a lot of human behavior is full of shit. It's, there's so much fake and need and unspoken things. And I was terribly aware of this in my early 20s and my late teens. But then I'm seeing just so much now. It's like the opportunity of transparent, intimate sharing, conversation. I mean, very much like in the sense we are doing in New Dharma, being trained to do in New Dharma, to share and open that deepest part of myself. I see that opportunity, not just in a romantic relationship, but I'm expanding it to every single relationship I am in, and that's, I find, where this, whatever has come to me, gets to become real. This is where manifestation is. So if awakening and manifestation is going to be in marriage, it's going to be in relationship, and it's not going to be simply this, me and God. That will be, in a sense, by the end of it, redundant to the collective sharing of what is flowing and coming to us in this time. Thank you.
So Sachigita, would you like to facilitate from here on out, inviting people to come in and ask questions?
I can do that.
I think it's probably good if just one person does it. But I also do want to just, am I on? Am I back on? Tonya, you are such a brilliant teacher for me. And I loved everything you were speaking about, because it is really true. The whole idea around relationship, the whole idea around sexuality in spirituality has been so male driven. And it is, my intent with New Dharma to find a way to integrate that. And I actually feel like this conversation is going to help that into the next step. So we'll see how that goes. But I think it's important, because you can't just cut out. Women are 51% of the world population, 51%. And we need a bigger voice. And I think the voice has to come from within us. It's not, I don't want to look, where so many people are looking outward for permission, and that doesn't need to happen anymore. So for me, right now, I'm just speaking, my intent is find a way, and we will, to integrate the male-dominated spiritual practices of the whole world, but bringing that feminine forward in a way where it's for all of us. It's not just one voice. And I don't know who said this, maybe Adi Deva, and also Tonya said it, that sex and relationships should not be a problem. This is part of the human, it's part of our design. So how, to take that from being a problem, pulling back from that and looking at, this is just one more way to come into the embodiment of who we are on this spiritual path. So it's the meeting of the human and the spiritual, because they're not separate. We don't even need to have a conversation that says they're separate. And, as you gain your own authority in your life with every aspect of it, then you begin to make those choices from a place where you're in your own authority and you're knowing that that choice you're making is the choice you need to make for where you are at this moment. So that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Sachikita.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
So I guess it will be as usually that those of you who want to come forward can raise your hand. Yes, now there's a message in the chat box on how to do that. And just either if you just want to share your experience, I mean, we're all on this path together. You can all inspire, be inspired from it by each other. And if you want to ask questions to Sat Shree or Satimai or any of us, you can just let us know who you are asking. Okay. Looking forward.
Okay. I see a hand up. Who's going to direct this?
First up, we have Yosin.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Yosin.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you so much for everyone sharing. It really resonated with me. For those who don't know me, I've been with Sat Shree for about 3 years, I think now. And also, I relate with a lot that has already been said. And I'm actually in the process of where I first thought that I've been single for most of my life, and thought that was perfect for the spiritual path, just to not engage in a relationship and keep it that way. And over the past few months, I discovered that was a real trap in a way, because I've been avoiding meeting all those parts that were suppressed in me, but also in society. The feminine in me, and especially meeting that in a relationship. So it's I'm really happy that this opportunity is here. This space is created to share that, because I think our path, as Sat Shree also said and has said before, is so different from others. And for me also, it's not a struggle to continue in the spiritual path. It's a struggle to be in this world and to live my life and to experience it fully embodied, meeting everything that's crossing my path, and meeting all the things connected to that. And I remember the first time I had a small group with Sat Shree, and Sat Shree asked me about what if I had a relationship or children or anything, and I said no, and he says, well, so that's sorted. And I was relieved that I didn't have to go in there anymore. But now I'm noticing that I think there's still things there that I have to meet, and especially now with the feminine rising, and not only the feminine, also with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything is coming to the surface. I think it's so important to also connect in relationship, and it can be such a beautiful opportunity to balance out the masculine and feminine, not only reclaim our spots, as we see also in Mother Earth, that the feminine is denied, it's not in balance, but also that the same goes for men. It's as Amit and Adideva also shared, it's so important to also have the opportunity to meet the feminine structure in a male body, and so it's, yeah, I'm still, as you can probably hear, figuring this out, but I feel it's really important just to also be in the world and meet all this, and yeah, meet the sexual part also, and not be comfortable with that, especially as women, and being able to voice our needs, as it has been so dangerous for such a long time to do so, and yeah, really come to our full authority to yeah, to balance everything, that the feminine and masculine, and come to a higher truth in a way. So yeah, just sharing while I'm still figuring this out, but really happy for this opportunity and everything everyone shared. So thank you.
Interesting.
Up next, we have Kahlo.
Bringing Kahlo up next. Hey,
Hey everybody,
hey Kahlo.
good to see you. Thank you very much for including this topic. It's been I'm really grateful that this has been brought up, because I think it's so important and so necessary to address this for myself. And I've been struggling with not raising my hand, but I know that it's time to let I know, and seeing everybody opening up about it, it's very it feels like it's the time to dive into this topic of relationships. And I've been into, I'm a little bit nauseous because I've been into deep inquiry since yesterday. It feels like intensive since yesterday, actually. So how this whole conversation started for me was kind of earlier in life, coming out of like a movement from fear to desire, and it had a lot to do with it was like I spent my 20s pursuing my desires around meeting women, and that became so important for me. It was more important than school. It was more important than my job. It had this very soon after I went out there. It really gripped me with this intoxicating, power and pleasure kind of drive. So yeah, as I ventured into this, I found out that it made possible to get me out of my shell to some extent, but it soon turned into this kind of athletic, monstrous thing, and it was a great adventure. It's been a great adventure as well, and this was like the years prior to when this spiritual started coming. So a few years afterwards, 2016-17, when I first met Sat Shree, I was in a space in my life when I was I was living for the next fling, for the next heat of excitement, and this constant chase would give me, and this kind of excitement and this whole exploration. I would be traveling all the time, so how and when and how long it was just part of the whole deal. It was just so as I said, very very exciting, and I was totally hooked. And it was I didn't know anything about addiction, because I never had problem with drugs and stuff earlier. Now when I look back on it, it had really those characteristics. So what I found out about myself was that it was what did for me was that I kept running away from myself. I ignored my vulnerability completely and others' vulnerability, because I was basically feeding an addiction. and I didn't know what to do, and I felt I needed help, and I didn't know where it would come from. So so after my Sat Shree, and there was this long period of kind of dejection, like dissatisfaction, mourning, I guess. And I think through your grace, it somehow became possible for me to experience that personal presence that I somehow have been calling for all my life. And you know, it's now I know it's kind of like being in a relationship with God. That's exactly how it feels most of the time, as weird and wonderful and bizarre as it can be. The thing now that so I've been also celibate for a couple of years, and I've been learning how to come to terms with this, and still learning how to come full circle, you know, because I know it's coming. But the thing I often struggle with in this discussion is that, you know, being shown this archetypal image of that perfect love, perfect relationship that can exist, can exist with the divine, and you know, even glimpses of that can be so gripping. I think that the whole part of my nature was kind of calling that since the beginning, and having that as a model now, it's so easy to end up in those kind of depreciation or diminishing of judgment, looking down on human relationships. And in a way, that's my conversation, I think. And sometimes all I see out there is selfishness, separation, suffering. Yeah, you know, all this kind of in others, and I know it's still in myself, and just it's becoming easier. And since in the same time I know and I am the source of all relationship and sex and love as well, so it's a huge paradox. And what I found out since yesterday was that I don't have to solve anything. I just have to hold the paradox. It's been actually easier since yesterday for some weird reason. And yeah, I guess this kind of, you know, we've been on for some time with Sat Shree about this scale, need and desire, and somewhere midway we have love and maybe fear and repulsion on the other end, which has been something like, you know, the hallmark of my existence. So yeah, I think I said actually pretty much everything, but I don't have an actual like a question or anything, but I would love to hear Sat Shree's feedback. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Kayla. So you're perfect. Right where you are. It's the paradox. You just hold it. It's your connection to divine that'll handle it. And it will show up in the course of your day. It'll show up in the course of interacting with other people. And it will start unraveling and coming to an integrated relationship. But it may take years. You can't be impatient. You have to be patient with yourself. Because you've got the secret. You've got the secret juice. And this allows you to go anywhere without fear. And the whole compulsion of desire comes from fear, comes from compensation for lack or need. So when you find that source within yourself, it's all going to just keep working out in the course of your lived life. So, perfect.
Monique is up next.
Hello. um, yeah, because I was wondering, because we're talking about relationships and sex, and for me, for the past 2 years, I've just been trying to even be able to be with people, just with friends. So the whole relationship part is really far away from me at this moment. And I think at the time I started the awakening process and I started following your teachings, at that time I was completely separated from my body, like I couldn't even walk. And it's been a long way from there to where I am now, so it's a lot better. But still, when I'm with friends, I find it very hard to be with my friends, to not go into like a panic state. And I just don't know sometimes what to do, because I know what I need to do. It's go more to the human part of all of this, not so much the spirit, but yeah, I'm finding it very difficult. So if there's any feedback on on this, it would be nice.
So you're asking, if you're asking me,
There, she's asking for feedback from any of them.
okay,
Okay.
good. So let's see if someone else can respond.
Tonya, Sachikita, one of
Yeah,
somebody.
the others on the panel.
All you'll need to do is just unmute yourself and speak, and you'll be highlighted.
Oh, here comes Tonya.
Hello. I could just respond something to that. I've been diving into an area in psychology around different defense patterns or personality patterns, and this relates to something that they, in this perspective, call a leaving pattern. So I feel it's like you're really expressing something which is, where you escape to spirit, sometimes. But then you're trying to be in human relationship or come to human relationship. So you're really just walking all that way into relationship. And I find that really beautiful, just you sharing that. And if you'd like to, I could share some of that information with you, which I think could be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think what you say, I think people have told me that before, but it's more in like a psychologist way with, oh, you have this issue, but it has to do, yeah, I guess with avoiding. But everything is welcome, every information.
So if I step forward on, I really want to empower all of you who are on the panel to be able to step forward. But what it's my suggestion is you take it one little step at a time, which is what you're doing right now, is be with the right friends. Be with the people who you feel are open to spirit in the way you are. And maybe if anything else, you don't have to descend down into where normal human dynamics go on in relationship, because you're in a different vibration, but you can enter into it through those that are aligned with the vibration you carry. So start from there, and from that place will come a strengthening that will weaken the power of the avoidance and the fear in your system, because you'll be able to move into connection, to relationship with those that you're already in affinity with or aligned with you. And this will nurture your strength to continue to meet the other parts of life that is too much to ask for yourself at this point. So that's what I have to say to that.
Did any of the other panel members want to comment Are you okay? Okay, what I can do, Adi Deva, you can send me the material. I'll forward it to Monique and then connect the two of you. Okay, is that okay? I'm assuming it is. No one says it.
Yes.
I had to find everyone. I'm looking at a big screen, so. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Monique, thank you.
Thank you for coming forward, Monique.
Up next, we have Katie.
Hey everyone. As I speak, of course, my heart races.
Where is
So
she?
I'll just let it be for a while.
Katie, they're looking for you right now to bring you up. Find her? I see her right there. They're trying to bring you into the screen.
Okay, but you can
It's
hear
not
me
doing
now.
it. Oh, and turn your audio up also.
Audio.
Yeah, the sound.
Or move closer to your microphone.
Oh, wait.
There you are.
Now we got you.
Hi, Katie.
Whoop.
Well, and there you went away.
Wait, you're
Can you
not
hear
not quite loud enough yet, girl. Keep speaking up.
There
There
she
you
is.
go. We see you. All right. So
You're good, Katie. Go ahead and speak.
All right. Can you hear me?
yes,
Yes.
Yeah, so.
that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
I was very happy, just like all of us, for this topic, as I dived back, I think last year, quite a lot in the human, knowing and seeing me doing that. Kind of, I feel like I lost authority a bit. That's actually when I came back to New Dharma again. I was a bit, how you say, absent a little bit. So a few things shook up my world, and what I want to bring in, and I'm a bit struggling with this, is when I'm in a relationship and there's a quite masculine man, which funny somehow I'm attracted to. I lose my authority while I'm seeing me doing that and get quite emotional. And I see a pattern from past relationships in the past 10 years that I changed, and but it's really bodily emotion. So it's not weeping and whining. It's bodily, and especially in this relationship I'm now in, it's also with the knowledge of New Dharma and of Bhagavad Gita, of course. It's more detached, but it still feels a bit like energy I cannot really handle or not really know how to handle. So I see myself repeating things, and I like to know how to not do that. And another thing is that I'm 29 now, and my body is wanting to reproduce, so to say. That has been happening. I got a miscarriage last month, and I find it a bit hard to see and to discriminate what's true. Yeah. So actually it's that.
Great. Great. Katie, a great question. Part of it is to understand the nature of our bodies. because some of the most primitive energies that affect our relationships come from our biology, which rises up from the vital nature. That inherent in the body, of course, is the sexual urge, but its juice, its energy, its motive to overtake our consciousness comes from the life force, the vital nature, the wanting to live, the wanting to be in existence and want to fulfill the purpose of our physical embodiment, which is reproduction. So that's the sexual drive. And in women, there is a stage where you are most capable of creating children. And that would be for nature or fulfillment through us. So these drives have a very convincing reality in your embodiment. So it's a good sign. It means you're in your body, but it's also very noisy. And the nature of that is because we tangle emotions and thoughts, right? Thoughts, emotions, feelings, and drives. And they get tangled up together. And so it's very hard as a younger person to have the discernment and to know what is true and what's not true. And because what it seems to be true or not true is relative to your purpose, to the reason, the things that are important for you. And I do say that one of the importance is you coming into the maturity of yourself as a woman, becoming a woman in life where you get familiar with these parts of yourself that are not trustworthy. Why are they not trustworthy? Because they are false showings. They're false truths. And then they disappear and you get lost and diminished out of the byproduct. So until we become established in the authority of our own awakening, these things are inevitable. Once we become established in our own authority, it doesn't mean we have to avoid one or the other, but we are able to hold true to our own inner reality while we're in the midst of discovering what it is to be the unique expression of the world mother as a feminine body in a feminine body. So if you cannot go into shame or judgment or reaction or fear unduly, because that'll always be part of the content, you can maneuver through these choppy waters as you develop into your 30s and into your 40s in a way that serves your ultimate purpose. But the fact that you're experiencing this goes to show your system's experiential. Even though you've got an awareness component, it shows that your body is right there with you. It's getting dragged along. And there's a bunch of challenges that occur in that process where you project onto someone else your own power. You give them away. You give your own power away to another, believing that they have a quality you're missing or is better than your own. And whatever that may be, it could be that a strong male quality, which you as a female have a biological affinity with. But in the process, you lose your identity. So that growing how to do that is learning to set boundaries, learning to restrain the first impulse, learning to apply enough discernment at every step of the pool when it comes up, so that you can stay with yourself and not lose yourself. Mm. This is actually the developmental process of us as human egos, men or women, in the course of the unfolding of our life. It isn't a right or wrong. It's a discovery and an enriching of what it is to be you and the planet. But the ultimate goal, of course, is to find the inner happiness that doesn't need outer happiness to be fulfilled. So that's my offering up to you on this. I would say that the very fact you're here is evidence of your alignment and willingness to come back into the right relationship with yourself so you can continue to grow into the right relationship with the rest of your life. So it'd be a perfect forum for you. Very good. Thank you.
Do any of the panel members want to make a comment? Tonya, okay.
I just make a quick comment because I resonate a lot with the things that you've said and have experienced this. And basically what Sat Shree was just saying there at the end, but like I find it really helpful to just give myself a lot of space around these things. Like if something comes up, bringing that in, holding it, and just giving myself time to like understand where and what is happening. Because sometimes initially it will feel like the impulse is wanting to have a child. The impulse is wanting to have this reaction in this relationship. The impulse is wanting to talk everything out right away, or whatever it is that's happening in the context of the relationship and your relationship to your own like process. I've found it most helpful to just like make myself wait and make myself not just jump on the reaction or jump on the decision or jump on the way of understanding, but just like give it space and then allow myself to really pick apart all the threads that are influencing it. And I experience this in a really energetic, like visual way inside of my body. I start to pick out all the different things that are kind of coming together to contribute to making this impulse or this decision. And if I'm able to pick them apart, I can find what's true. I can find what is true for me. And then I can move forward knowing that like I made the best choice based on what was most true for me. And even if it was a mistake, it's not a mistake. Even if you get lost, you're never lost. Like, yeah.
Great.
Great. Thank you.
Tonya, thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to say, like, I agree with what Tonya says. And what I have seen is like, don't be so serious about this. It's not about life or death. Just keep the aspiration high. And yeah, and you will manifest your highest truth. I would say that try and enjoy the journey rather than looking for what's at the end of the journey. Just be where you are at this moment, and yeah, don't take it so seriously. Thank you.
Spoken from experience.
Okay.
Sophie's up next.
Oh, great. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. You're
Okay.
online and we see you.
Okay, great. Hi, first I would just like to thank you for bringing up this topic and that we have this opportunity. It's really great. I must admit I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first time interacting with you, and I would like to ask a question to Sat Shree.
Okay.
Okay. My heart is racing, but it's good to know that it's working.
That's sweet.
Okay. So I would like to share something. The relationships I've had in the past with men have unfortunately been very destructive and difficult. And I have been single and living in celibacy for almost 2 years. And after my last relationship, something started like appearing of something of a fear that I have to fix myself. I have to find a man, I have to find a relationship to heal these previous experiences of abuse or destructiveness from men. And it has created so much stress for me and so much pressure. It's like I've built something of, I don't know, a prison for myself. And I know there is a lot of fear, like, what if there is no one for me? And another fear thought is like, how do I find this person? What do I do? And I try to dismiss this as thoughts, but I notice more and more that this is so deeply rooted in me. And I also feel that I have a deep longing for love, to be met, to be seen as a woman, and just being in a healthy relationship with a man.
Yeah.
And I just want to succeed, but at the same time, I'm very comfortable in my own company, but I really long for it. And I also feel some shame in this longing. Like, I want to be like everybody else. I want to be, I don't know, engaged, living with somebody, or yeah, this package of this normal person succeeding in life and graduating and getting married and all these things. So I'm in this situation. Like, how do I move on? How do I let go of this fear of not being seen and loved?
There you go. There's the question. How do I live? How do I deal with this? Perfect, Sophie. Thank you. So we each carry a certain degree of ancestral karma that we end up working it out. So you can usually find this structure in you with observing your mother or observing your relationship with other relatives in terms of where you lose your own authority in the relationship, and therefore, or are you seeking to resolve a karmic structure that comes through your ancestry by repeating it? And it never works because the consciousness that would have you drawn to someone is oriented to repeat the same pattern. So to break out of that is to find someone you wouldn't necessarily be attracted to being with. Someone where the old activation and pulls of the old ones isn't there. Like someone who you can feel like to be a friend with. So that whole charge of the ancestral karma isn't being fed by the attractions, which eventually become repulsions that are very compulsive, and they get intermingled with the natural sexual drive and the natural need for a human body to have intimacy and to be in physical contact and to be able to be, you can be comfortable with and relax with, and they're comfortable with and relax with you. This start from friendship. Start from being with people you wouldn't otherwise be interested in, and then discover what they are. And let them not be particularly interested in you, but discover who you are. And I do believe this is a perfect forum to begin to explore that for yourself. So this is the aspiration that has brought you to me, and the aspiration that is coming is not to avoid this, but to be able to strengthen yourself so that you don't end up stuck in repeating the same error. So, it's like an addiction. It's an addiction. You take a drink and then you just get drunk and then you come out of it and you think you're fine. So but then you take a drink again and then the whole thing repeats itself. So it's an addictive pattern that's wired up into the physicality of the body. So that's my advice, to begin to come out of this addictive pattern, which isn't just yours, that you took on unwittingly, that's getting intermingled with your human needs and your own aspiration, that you do it step by step. You carry your attention and let the universe, as you meet the issues in you, as you hold the desire versus the fear, right? That's what it is, desire and fear. Hold them together, asking for the grace so that the opportunity will arise or a natural unfolding that will occur so that which is true will come. And that the other part of it is this ability to recognize truth. Ability to recognize truth is a recognition, not a thinking, not emotional impulse or a biological impulse. It's a recognition. This person is the one that's aligned with my intent. And you may have to explore some to find that, but let it be among people who have the same purpose as yourself, initially at least. All right. How old are you now? So
I turned 35 recently, quite recently.
okay. Well, so you've had a lot of experience with yourself. And it's good to be hip to the parts of yourself that get overtaken and you lose, and learn how to find a way to bring a balance. Because that's where it always ends up. And often it starts with the imbalance until we find the balance, because we're the fulcrum in which those two alternate. And when we find the balance, the difference between those fear and desire begins to mingle, and it becomes excitement. So this thing is the structure by which we normally can come to balance. But excitement itself is not a truth. It comes and goes. But it is how the body can recognize what it wants. You have to use a higher discrimination through your awakened psychic to discriminate if this supports me or not. Okay, so there you go. It's probably just stay in the question. How do I be with this? How do I resolve this? And be patient. Patience is the art of living. The willingness to be where you are, not needing it to be different, and then be willing to be open to what is next in whatever form it may take. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Does anybody from the panel want to comment?
I can
Sakita.
add something, because I think what Sophie spoke about, I think many people can recognize, like when we speak about relationships, spiritual partnership, many people can have a strong longing for that, but it's not happening. So that's also something to meet then. Like it's not that easy to, it doesn't just happen for everyone. And like if it comes along, it's beautiful, but it's not something that everyone has to, like that desperation to be fulfilled can also come from living a life on our own, if that's what comes our way. We just feel that no one is excluded, even if a relationship is not coming along. I guess that's what I wanted to add.
Okay. Thanks, Sakita.
Up next, we have Tim and Anka.
Ah.
Yeah.
We got both of you. All right.
Yes.
Hey,
A
guys.
new relationship couple.
No, they're not a couple.
They're not a couple.
No.
Okay.
Oh, who's
Oh,
asking
okay.
the question? Is it you, Anka?
I raised my hand, but I think Tim will follow.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, I would like to also express my gratitude for this subject, because I do believe that this is such a big part that's a new Dharma changed in my life. Because like when my awakening happened, I really had that feeling of I had so many lives of where I succeeded in being this partner or a mom, or I had those parts, and I don't want that to be my purpose again. So I really felt that a relationship would be a distraction, something that would take me away from my spiritual purpose, and then really devoting myself to New Dharma and really following this path of embodiment and integration, that I could meet the resistance for me to be in the world, and to like that it was in me, this resistance and the lack of authority to be in a relationship and follow my own purpose, that I was actually pushing it away because I felt I was not strong enough to stay in my own wish or in my own identity. So then meeting all those resistances, it's suddenly switched not that long ago, and I am now in a relationship with someone who's not consciously on the spiritual path, which was really like the thing in me that I was really resisting, all those worldly things, and and I'm meeting them all now, and it's so like I feel so alive. I feel really becoming also the matter. Like I really feel that part that you shared in the beginning of spirit coming in matter, and it's such a wonderful feeling to also be in matter, with the relationship, sexuality. And I also wanted to add to what you shared, Satyagita, that you shared about the feminine body being integrated in the sexual picture. Because I had this one, I ended up some workshop, kind of randomly, what was about energetic lovemaking, and suddenly I realized that every time, like in this specific moment, also there's so much trauma of the female body not being ready to receive, and that it takes so much more time that we are learned to or used to, and then switching this to make it a sacred intimacy and meeting like so much things, like so much tears and pains and that was stored in my body. Like every time someone enters and the body is not ready, it's like putting a trauma into your cells. And then also realizing that it's not only in the female body, but also a trauma for the male body, like of being the perpetrator, like unknowingly. But that it's also like creating a pain body in the man. So yeah, that I think that's something to acknowledge, and like if it's included in the spiritual path, that is also like making it a sacred way of being together. But I'm so thankful to feel that integral path, and it's changed my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Anka.
Yeah.
Tim.
I don't, but I do. Some
And
part
Anka,
of
I just want to say it's so apparent in what has happened for you. It's just beautiful to see the integration that has happened in your system. So you're now, the balance has come. It's really exactly what's needed.
Yeah, it's all
Perfect.
thanks to the Dharma.
Yeah. All right. Yes.
Okay, Mr.
Tim, come on. I want to hear from you. Yes.
no pressure. Oh. First of all, it's good seeing you again. Oh.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Then
Bring
I
the
might-
mic. Yeah, come closer.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
and sit closer. That might be better. Oh.
There you go.
And I'm going to do speak a few so I can see all of you, or at least many of you. Ooh. Yeah. Whew. I'm actually grateful for this topic because I had many beliefs about how I should live spiritually. Both like not having a relationship and sex is not allowed. And I think there was this some kind of going into the cave that was really maybe common even for me, like it might have been in past lives, but felt really attracted to that part. Ooh. But really including all these parts, especially in the lower chakras now. I think that is actually what makes me feel alive, and what is also really resonating in what the four of the panel shared about including it. Because there was a running away from it, and I was really grateful for it, for the advice that she gave just for me before I went to India to not go into any intimate relationship. But it also, what is the word? Locked down parts of me that I interpreted it as well, that I was not allowed to have any sexual activity going on, like sexual thoughts or erections or whatsoever. So it was actually unconsciously or semi-consciously blocking these parts of myself, of my embodiment as well. And I think this really helps for me, this talk, but also hearing it from other parts, because there was also a lot of shame for me with sex, and hearing that people are experiencing how it comes. Experimenting with it helps, because for me there's also doubt about my sexuality, and I think going into celibacy, which definitely feels like it helps me to focus, might also be a bypass to not fully experiment on that one for me. So I can just let go if I don't know whether it's bisexual or gay or heterosexual. But as long as I'm focused on the spiritual path, it's something I can put aside. And there is actually a lot of energy running through the system and also coming back into the root, it's his name, the root chakra. It's something I thought about bringing up forward yesterday. as well. It's feeling both individually as collectively the shame for being overtaken sexually, and then, well, maybe misusing, but then use sex to feel the power, and or just be overtaken by the sexual energy. And then this might be also, it felt also collectively, and I shared it with Satchigita in a mentoring session. This pain of being overtaken and then not daring or being able to admit your shame, and then just perpetuating that, and thereby perpetuating more shame and more pain to the female part of it as well in the relationship, just out of fear of admitting that you're ashamed of what you did. And that I could really feel right now, actually, and that it happened to me in my life. And it actually felt that opening up and sharing it in front of a big group gives it space, and it makes it more easy to release. Ooh. I think that is the majority of what wants to be seen or said. Whew.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some parts, but that might boil up in the few coming days or whatsoever. But I think that is mainly it, to really allow it and allow all these other parts that I might not be proud of or uncertain and insecure of, that they may be there as well and maybe spoken out to, and maybe
Yes. You know, the shame is a doorway.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. I've felt a lot about it last few days. Huh. Yeah.
Right. So very good. Bringing it out like this is a good start. And this is also finding the right relationship with this, with our purpose. So, you know, many of us who've come have traveled this journey multiple lives, and we've gotten stuck up at different stages. And either by bypassing an unmet structure in our karmic history that forces us to keep repeating the same pattern lifetime after lifetime until we actually come down and meet it, as well as indulging patterns that have kept us separate from being able to complete the fulfillment of our journey. So part of this is each one of us has to know the nature of your aspiration in relationship to spirit. Because if there's anything that's precious in this opportunity, is that in each of you. Because that's your uniqueness. That's the piece of the divine that lives in your person, lives in your body. That is there, and it's the true authority in you. If you give it enough time to come up out of its embedment in the inherited structures and patterns and the ones that we've brought with us. Because some of the greatest trauma occurs when we fall from the grace of our journey in past lifetimes. And that this comes to a time where we're just done with it, and that we are seeking to come to a point where there is no fall. And that's what we're speaking of here. And what I'm speaking to is so many of you have traveled this journey in other lives, and it's brought you to this time where spirit is so available, relatively speaking, and that this may be that last life before for you to complete that piece of the journey that's still incomplete. And when it becomes complete, then the whole world is yours. But if it doesn't become complete, then you get stuck up in a certain structure. How to know this? This is why I say to you from the very beginning, what is your aspiration? What are you here for? And then you don't need to be a mother again. You don't need to be a father again. You don't need to be a lover again. You've done this thousands and thousands of lives. What do you need? What's the most important thing for you? So there's these two parts of the conversation, because this time, in this era, spiritual development is the most available it's probably been in all of mankind's history. That a small amount of effort aligned with spirit will have a strong return from the universe to support you, instead of the laborious process of other traditions and other times. So I wanted to just bring that in as well. That's my job, right? I want you all to complete the journey. I want you to finish. I want you to come to that place where no return. But when you do return, you don't lose. You don't lose anything. That's the true fullness of life.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's try to finish up, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Up next, we have John.
Don,
John,
good to see you.
good to see you again. Welcome.
Good to see everyone and to be with you all. And I feel so blessed just by all the sharings today, and I'm just reflecting so much on myself. And I just wanted to share a little bit of my own journey in the recent years. It's been about 4 or 5 years since I've been in a relationship, and I can really relate to the theme of just coming more and more into my own fullness and contentment. And I think that process is still very much ongoing. So like one of my questions that I ask myself and is like, how do I know I'm ready, or how do I know it's time, if it's time to go back into a relationship? Because I still feel that longing, but it's softer. And like even Sat Shree, hearing what you just shared, it's like the call of the purpose is so deep.
Yeah.
And just to feel that in my body right now.
Trust that.
That's all the embodiment you need. It'll guide you to the fullness, because there's nothing to fear. As long as that flame of aspiration is there, as long as that deep felt of the true need to return to source is there, then whatever comes in life will be wonderful, but it'll be just a reflection of that which you already have.
Mm.
So from this place, your ability to be love for someone else as truth is greater. And there is a great healing for them as well as for you when you're no longer in need or fear or desire. So there is a way of converting this into a more embodied experience. And that's what I call manifestation. And that is why I'm seeing the young people like yourself to be able, if you have that longing as you're expressing, this means that divine is with you for whatever choices you make, to deepen it and embody it more fully. And then what do you trust? You trust your own experience, and you make a call based on what resonates for you is true. But you also have someone like me or someone like the community of people here to test it, to see if that truth is the truth of your vital, the truth of your body, the truth of your idea or idealism, or the truth itself that arises from that central being you are. So my sense, John, is this is the end of many lives, and that this is, you're perfectly safe in exploring the opportunity of your embodiment like you're looking to do. But you don't have to reach out for it. It will come to you when the time is right.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Up next, we have Yamanya.
Yamanya.
Yeah. Good.
Good to see you again.
Hello.
Yeah, this seems to be a weekend of my topic. I feel like I have to step in again, as this relationship part has been, so much significant in my journey, so to say, in my awakening process. So I would like to share something about my journey. So let's say at some point I came out of a breakup and I had a heartbreak, and out of that, let's say for the first time, I could see that it was a teaching to really love myself. to learn to love myself in a way. And then out of that relationship, I met someone on the grounds of the Gita, which I said yesterday as well. And that was a great shift and teaching, because on the one hand, I felt already so much stronger than before the breakup. So I came with all these new, it was basically a new identity to also prepare myself, like I will not settle for less anymore, because one of the teachings that came later is that I tend to be attracted to men who are somewhat unavailable to me, because probably because I need to meet my rejection. But that I didn't know yet at the time. And then so I came so much stronger already in myself out of that heartbreak, which was a lot of pain that felt also bigger than just my pain. And then I met this man where I really recognize what you are saying about like beware of where you feel physically drawn to. And this was really the same type of man that I would usually like, but then on the ground of spirituality. And then I came into that relationship, and I am very much have a lot of, like, my path is very experiential, and he comes more from the awareness plane very, very clearly. And so in a way, it was very challenging in the beginning, because I could feel already in some parts of me that a part of him was rejecting me, but it was very subtle. So I would still also be attracted to him. And this was a struggle of, like, on the one hand, wanting to keep my lesson, like, I need to love myself, I should not settle for less. And at the same time, he was constantly mirroring me, like, from the beginning of our being together, that I was already creating a new story and kind of bringing all the old into the new. And that was very frustrating at times. But actually, in the end, being with him, which also led me to experience another heartbreak, has taught me basically that I am attracted to these type of men. And there was also a very beautiful experience where I thought I liked the boss of a friend of mine. And then I was sitting at a cafe and I saw him coming out of his house. And I felt that kind of attraction. And all of a sudden, some sort of insight came that what the attraction was actually something that me seeing a certain pain that I felt I could take care of in a way. And it was more coming from that place than perhaps that he would really, be the one for me in a healthy way, aligned with my purpose. And then the guy who I met on the grounds of the Gita went to India with you, and then he came back and he also talked to a psychologist who is on the spiritual path. And then they found out something that girls who have daddy issues seem to be sometimes attracted to men with mother issues, kind of. And I started to look into my past relationship, and I could find some recognition there. Let's see, because there's a lot and I don't want to make it too long, but
Where are you right now in that relationship?
That is actually really touching, because in a way, what was the hard part for me was that at some point after seeing each other for 7 or 8 months, I felt like, why don't we call it a relationship? And he was like, it's not like that, it's not that. And that's where kind of my heart broke. And also when he made another connection, which I already felt, so my heart broke before I knew it, basically. But in a way, I would say now, currently, that we are still in a relationship, even though we are not together. And that is really touching, because I know that he is still there. And currently, I'm at a place because of this relationship where I was also able to experience the sacredness of sexuality and intimacy and healing, that I feel like if I would die tomorrow, I would already be so grateful for this experience. But currently this relationship has brought me to a place where I feel like, if I think about how I felt after the breakup, I could not be alone and everyone needed to be here. And now I'm basically completely alone, and I feel like also separated with friends. But I feel like it doesn't matter in a way. It's if life wants me to be in a partner relationship, I'll be in a partner relationship. If life doesn't want me to be that, then I won't. If life wants me to become a mother, then I will, and otherwise I don't. So there is this great sense of fulfillment and wholeness, even though also sometimes things can still hurt and get to me, obviously. So that's where I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the perfect place. That balance where if it comes, it comes, it's good. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That you're good either way. In that poise, you have the right relationship. It's the part of you that still is addicted to the drama, to the story, to the infatuation that is causing the disruption that keeps pulling you. So the structure of restraint, being able to recognize it, have it, hold it in your body, but not act on it, because it'll convert into bliss. It'll convert to an energy in your physical body, which is actually the Kundalini Shakti that is ready to awaken. But if you keep giving it away, it can't organize. So what's coming to you is actually the mother awakening in your body, and it's very sexual. It's very full of desire. It comes through that whole current, but you have to hold it and let it organize along your spinal column, going from first chakra all the way up into the crown, in order for it to fulfill its purpose in your system. So the restraint right now would be to be where you are and not seek anything different, to simply meet the course of your life and let that inner fulfillment as your body awakens, which brings the intimacy, it brings the aliveness of the sexual being of the lower chakras into your heart, into your consciousness, into your awareness. Let her play her part. Let her awaken as you. That's what I see is possible for you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Beautiful.
Who's up next?
We have only 5 more minutes, right?
Well, let's bring someone else up.
Okay,
I mean,
one
we
more.
can run a little bit.
Yes.
Susanna is up
And then
next.
there's who
Susanna.
else is on? If you guys go really quickly, we can do there's 4 people that have their hands up. I'd like to get everyone in, okay?
Yeah, you've been.
So there's a little bit pressure here, Susanna.
Perfect. Well, I wanted to share that I am for the first time noticing how as it is internal, it's manifesting outwardly, and how I've seen in this in this little girl and her neediness, how she comes forward, where my awareness, my masculinity always sort of tried to hide her. It didn't want her to be there. And so recently she more and more got a voice, and which in itself is obviously perfect, because she needs to be seen and she needs to be healed. But I also, it's just so tricky, because it's sometimes I feel like I want to express her. I want to let her have the stage. And at a moment when I was sort of ready to do that, I held it. And the day after, I was so happy to notice that I did, because I could see how, again, my masculinity tried to take over. How the awareness wanted to sort of take a position or hold on to something, and then completely defeat the purpose of bringing that little girl forward. And And so I'm seeing more and more how for me it is now to sort of sacrifice the awareness and to let that little girl be there, but also, you know, what's already here, and to hold it all together and not continually try to fall back into just holding on to something, whatever it is. I can do a 180 flip in seconds if something gets pulled away. It's just that I want to hold on to something. So
Okay.
yeah, that's just beautiful to see. And how the purpose comes into this is I always felt like the opportunity is the possibility is to be in life, in relationship, not with a guy, but actually with all of existence, to be there in complete intimacy and complete vulnerability. And how my ego has again grasped onto that and tried to force that into a relationship where it was so clear that I was not even able to bring that forward yet, and it just created so much hypocrisy. And how I'm trying to bring that to this conversation is, we're speaking of, you know, this fulfillment, finding this fulfillment in yourself. And that, of course, is the ultimate goal, to create this beautiful spiritual relationship. But I think, again, if we want to first get there and then step into a relationship, that again is the masculinity trying to grasp onto something. So the question I want to bring up, and not necessarily get an answer to, but just to see, is like, how can we start stepping into relationship, even not yet being in our authority, and use the relationship to actually get to that point, instead of first trying to get there before we step into relationship.
Can you answer quickly?
Yeah, the awareness brings fear and repulsion. The experience includes its desire and longing or wanting. So the only way you can do this, you can't do it with awareness alone, you can't do it with experience alone. So in your system, you need to venture not knowing. You need to let the little girl come forward and take your chances, because you're right. That's going to be for you the richest arena for integration.
Okay. Okay, Susanna.
Thank you, Susanna.
Thank you.
Can I very quickly mention that
yes, go ahead.
shameless advertisement, that I would like to invite anyone who feels they would like to start a Gita group, which will be focused on youth, which I will be starting July 1st. And also to mention again that Satya Gita and Amit are doing the Manifesting Divine, which they'll also be starting soon. So
okay,
perfect. You can do shameless advertising anytime. It'll be in the newsletter. Okay, next. I did my shameless too.
Emily is up next.
All right.
Emily, welcome.
Hello again.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
I was almost hoping that you wouldn't call my name. I feel nervous. I feel very nervous speaking, and I feel very afraid speaking. And at the same time, I feel like speaking is probably part of my path. So yeah, here I am.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I asked a question on the satsang yesterday, and it made me realize that what I need in my life right now is to stand on my own for a while, and yeah, to become stronger in my own light, or maybe not become stronger, because I already feel strong in my light, but I need to come to trust in my light. In the light that is within me, and stand strong in that. But what I felt the urge to share is that even though I am not in a relationship right now, I have always felt very sexually open. And what I've always felt is that sex is definitely not, yeah, what do you say? It's not separate at all from divinity or God or whatever you want to call it. Rather, I feel more like sex can really be a gateway to divinity and to God. And I also wanted to share something about sexuality and Mother Earth because I have a very strong connection to her. And a while ago, I had this experience where I felt a lot of anxiety, really, really intense anxiety. And all of a sudden, I just had this vision where I saw myself falling down into the roots of Mama Earth, just completely giving up all resistance to the anxiety and just falling right through it and right down into the roots of Mama Earth. And what happened was that anxiety immediately transmuted into complete pleasure. And I just fell back in orgasm. And I just lie there in orgasm for about 30 minutes. And what I realized then was, just even more that sex and sexuality is not separate from divinity, because the very ground that I am walking on is vibrating with sexual energy. She is just vibrating with sexual energy. That is just her pulse. And she also told me then that that sexual energy, and especially the feminine sexual energy, really heals her. She is in such a need of healing, and the feminine sexual power is healing her. And she wants us to really connect that energy down to her. So I just felt the urge to come on and share that. I don't know if it fits here, but
Totally, Emily. Absolutely.
No, absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Perfect teaching.
It's beautiful teaching.
Yes. Who else do we have?
Eric is up next.
Eric, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
I didn't think I would have the courage to speak tonight, but
good.
I dedicate this courage to my little brother, who, ethereal, beautiful little brother, left me 2 days ago. So, And the love that has been flowing in my heart, I know it's you, speaking from your unbounded nature. And speaking of the heart, in today's topic, I've had so much use of this book, Awakened Relating, that I've been reading since India. And it's many sharings from awake spiritual couples and how they relate to each other, hold each other in presence, and let the other have their reaction. And it's basically what we do in the small groups, but it gets even more intense in Awakened Relating. And it's been an eye-opener to me, and so beautiful. And also there is a chapter on sexuality that also has been very eye-opening, and there was one very simple teaching there, to always channel sexual energy through the heart and not through your power center. Or it didn't say not through your power center, I've heard that somewhere else. But to always channel it through the heart, because then it's for the highest good. And not for some personal gains. And to try to come together friendliness and love instead of that grabbing desire. I feel that is important too.
It's beautiful.
Perfect.
Mm.
This is the coming to the balance in your system.
Mm. And it's for my
It's-
little brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes grief is a doorway.
Hmm. He was such an ethereal soul. He didn't belong here.
Yeah.
He couldn't ground himself in the physical. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, thank you. That's enough.
Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for responding to me, Sat Shree, during the transitioning.
It's beautiful what's happening for you, Eric. All of this isn't part of the flow
Mm-hmm.
of what you're becoming.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
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 Up next, we have Lizzie.
Okay, this will be the last
No, we have
one.
one more after Lucretia's.
We are
after.
going to go? Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Lizzie, I'm gonna little pressure. You got one more person behind you.
All right. Welcome. Is
Okay.
this the first time you've come forward?
This is the first time I've come forward, and I'm brand new to this community.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lizzie,
Welcome.
where are you?
I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Okay. Oh, one of
I'm
my
gonna
favorite
be
places.
joining the 4-day retreat next week.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, and so I know we have limited time, and which is interesting because I have a lot of nerves coming forward. But what Sat Shree actually offered to one of the women that brought her experience forward about the mother awakening in her.
Yes.
And relationship and sexuality have been profound teachers for me. And at the place I am now, I recognize there were many turnoff points. And the grace of my journey has brought me to where I am now. And I came to sexuality in a way, not with a partner, but with mentors and with teachers and body workers, and got to a place in my body where I was having these incredible awakenings. And I finally came to like, wow, these are profound teachers for me, and they don't matter all that much. And I'm learning so much about myself, and I'm realizing they're just part of the path. And one of the observations I've had and teachings, and perhaps there's a question in here, but there might not be, is that through this process, as I've learned my flavor and my gifts of cooking and nourishing and nurturing and feeling this immense embodiment and pleasure of the world, is that I have a mother in me that's really, really strong and powerful. And as a body worker, and I feel that, I'll call it an archetype, but it's such an embodied experience that I don't know, I right now where I am is I'm learning whether to trust it or what is its flavor. And then wrapped in that question, and with this whole exploration of my longing and my heart and this immense capacity in my body. And I used to think that longing was for a partner and for relationship and for learning and growth, which it is, but I'm realizing now is that aspiration is so overwhelmingly for the mother. And I value my body's experience and all that is being taught to me. And I'm also realizing like, wow, the spiritual path and the human path, I'm obviously in process because this might not make sense, but I'm also realizing that sitting in meditation for 2 hours a day and being part of the retreat next weekend and being part of witnessing and allowing things to come and go is what is really called for right now.
Perfect. It's perfect. It's the mother awakening in you. we have our individual identity, but what's arising is a much larger identity, which is the truth of what you are as an embodied divine being. And she knows she's got a good vessel in your body. She's going to use your vessel. She's going to teach you in the way she's been teaching you. She's brought you here so you can be instructed, to be informed on what's next in the unfolding of her manifestation in you. So it's perfect.
Thank you.
All right,
I feel
Lizzie,
so
we'll,
grateful to be here.
we'll see you in a few days.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, our last
Last
visitor.
one, Laurencia.
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 My goodness.
By the way, I love your hair.
You got a new look here. You're much more here. Wow. You're exploding.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny to, yeah. Oh, this is the dog.
Who is this?
It's a dog.
I know that. I'm a dog person. So is Tonya.
He's asking for some attention, but I'm gonna ignore it. It's hard. Okay. I had this story in my head and I would love to talk, but at the same point, I feel so much love right now. And I just want to thank you that since last year and all those teachings, it's so incredible to experience how those teachings can open the soul. So, and the funniest thing or this chapter from this year is like 2 days after the retreat, I fell in love in a way like I couldn't expect it, with not even a spiritual guy at all, totally not. So it was like, for me, I feel those struggle that I would like to change something, and at the same time I could feel in my body that this was exactly the same thing, the thing what need to happen. And now I'm able to meet those unmet parts of myself I couldn't be with before.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel so much love of the teachings and how I can integrate it in the relationship. And I can grow because of that, because it is not him that I can see those unmet parts of myself, but it's a situation where I can see those unmet parts of myself. And I think it's a blessing to break those patterns so I can see it and in the moment, and then I have this, how do you say? I have this capacity to choose what I can do or what I not can do. And yeah, it's difficult to speak if you feel so much in your body, like.
You know, it's when you can be love, you don't need love, then you're free from needing love. You just give love. When you are love, there's no emptiness, no need when you are that love. So when you feel this in your body and you're able to engage with another one to be exactly as they are, you're free. The freedom of love. So it's perfect. You only enrich it. The more you love, the more the channel for loving expands. The more we can love that which we couldn't love before, the more it heals and expands more. The more it communicates and replicates itself through love. That the birthing is loving beings awakening to the love within them. That's the true work of the mother, is to awaken up that capacity for love in all of her children. And yes, we need practice. We need one form to work with to begin to discover how to do that in the freedom rather than in the need or the strategy or the manipulation. That was perfect. Well, yeah, I'm so glad you've come to it.
Yeah,
This is
for
you coming
sure.
to authority
Yeah.
as a woman in the body, a
Yes.
sexual being, included in all of it. This is the opportunity of your generation. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Florencia.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Satyagita, do you have closing words for us tonight, this morning, this afternoon?
I guess I want to thank Sat Shree and Sat Shree for going 1 hour over the time.
Not quite, but we went somewhat.
She is, this is, you know, she's the timekeeper.
Yeah, this was
When
worth
she's
it.
interested, it's unlimited. But when I'm doing it, shut up, let me put on.
Suzanne, it's over there laughing.
No, but just thank everyone who came forward. It was really lovely to hear. And like we learn from each other and we're inspired by each other and we discover together. I mean, it's like we're learning to walk this path, this generation, the way we are, the way this journey is to us. And I guess Satya Mai will let us know when next youth satsang is happening. I don't know that.
Yes, I will have all the emails of everyone who is on the call today. And so we'll add you to our youth list because we'll be asking for other topics. There are a number of things that the ideas came up in our first meeting that we would like to do, that we'll bring it forward to all of you. So you're all included. And does anyone else in the panel want to just say a few last things?
Yeah, I would like to quickly say that there comes a point in the journey when teacher and his teachings become the source of the problem. And it's because we don't trust ourselves completely. And we don't trust ourselves to be with the consequences of our actions completely. And if we be with that unworkability within ourselves, we come to a place where the word freedom from the teacher or his teachings loses its meaning completely. It's just a figment of our imagination, and we hold ourselves hostage to that. And I feel that this could be another topic, because I feel a lot of people will come or have already faced that, are facing that problem.
Yeah.
Because this is a point in the journey. If we can cross it, we can come to a full realization of who we are and fuller. And it's a very important maturation point on this journey as human beings and spiritual.
Thank you, because it demonstrates your maturity, because I know you have been through many, many iterations of this path with us. And you're still here. And thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Tonya or Adideva?
I'd just like to say thanks and love to this, integrating this deeper into my life and all of our lives. And obviously this super long satsang is like a dedication to that.
There just wasn't any completion point. Tonya.
I guess for the first time, I mean, when I came to New Dharma, it was just like in Washoe Valley with very many old people, and I was 23. And so I am just feeling very grateful. And it was really just wonderful to see all these new faces that I've never seen before and see what the community is becoming, because I've been, kind of out of it for a year. And so, yeah, that was just really touching and beautiful to me. I actually was a little bit shocked. So
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to shock you. All right. So thank you all, those of you who have come up today to speak, and those of you who are here with us. And it was great to meet some new faces also. So really appreciate it. And the idea is to to have a place in New Dharma for youth, and your feedback is critical to having that happen. And I think this is a really great start. So the plan is to do this monthly. So we'll be putting it in the newsletter. You'll be able to see that, and other things that suggestions have been made, we'll be coming up with also. And your feedback is very much appreciated. All right, Sat Shree.
All right. So we're here to nurture the generation that'll be here when I'm gone. We're here to nurture the authority that's coming to you to help mankind make it through this transition.
Yes.
So you are the ones who I am looking to be able to move through the personal aspect of your life effectively and integratively so that you can be ready to play the role you have to play for the world. So it's in that context, I just want to bring forward what my intent is for all of you together, is to build a fellowship and a body of wisdom among all yourself that can assist the collective consciousness in this transition. All right, that said, thank you for your participation, your heart and soul and person who has come forward and been here with us. Namaste.
Namaste. Okay. Until we meet again.